Okay, welcome back. So as I mentioned, in this video, we'll actually start working on our padded tab clone here. So the first thing we want to do is figure out how to add a circle, which we've actually already seen. But we want to do a few things. Add a circle when the user hits any key. And actually, in my case, I'm only doing it for letter keys, but it would work the same way for any other key. So when a user hits a key, add a circle. And then we also need to figure out the animation of that circle. And lastly, we want to add that circle to a random coordinate. So to start, we'll just hit a key and add a circle to the middle of the screen. So let's go to the Paper.js docs and take a look at interaction and look at keyboard interaction. And I know it seems like, well, I did know where to look here, but the first time I came here, it took me a lot longer to find that. I just went through most of these and searched for keyboard. Basically, I'm trying to say that most likely if I was doing this again by myself and I hadn't prepared for this video, it would have taken me a lot longer to find that. I might have done a search. Anyway, so let's scroll down and just look at some of the examples. This first one, click here to focus and then press some keys. And it tells you what key was pressed and when it was released as well. So right now I'm pressing K and then releasing it. And if you look at the code, it's really easy, just on key down and on key up. So it's not, there's no document.add event listener, there's no jQuery event listeners. Behind the scenes, there are document.add event listeners happening. But for PaperScript, we just have to write this super simple line. So we can take that, actually just copy this. We'll do key down for our app. We want the sound to play immediately. So as I press the key, not when I release the key, because that's a little bit slower. It's sort of like a piano, that when you hit a piano, the noise, the sound that's generated is generated right when you press the key or right afterwards, not when you release. So we'll do key down. I copied that. And we'll start by just making a new circle. So we need this code, but we just want one, so we don't need the loops anymore. We'll get rid of that. And we'll make that new circle on key down. So this process is pretty realistic, where you're taking different pieces and you're just kind of fitting them together. So I found this in the docs on key down. We can get rid of that. And I found this in the docs as well. And we do need to change this. X and Y aren't defined. So let's just do it at 100, 100. And let's make fill color orange. So on key down, run this code. And again, it's very different than what we've seen, where we have document.add event listener, and then we would have to add in some element. So we'd have to do like document.query selector, some element like a div, .add event listener, and then we'd have to tell it click or key press or key up. It's a lot more code. This is done for us with Paper.js, really simple. So on key down, let's see what happens. I'm going to press a key. We end up with a circle. And every time I press one, I do get another circle. You just can't see it. So now let's work on this so that we are adding a circle to a random place on the screen. And the way that we do that actually took me a little bit of work to find that. We could do it ourselves, where we generate two numbers, basically from 0 all the way up until the maximum width of our screen, and then the other number from 0 up until the maximum height of our screen. And that's not too much work, but we do have to figure out the width and the height and the dimensions, which if you go to Paper.js, and if we look at, where are you, reference, and then when that's open, we look in view. And again, I just found this a few days ago. It took a little bit, but if we look at view and we look at bounds, or maybe it's size, the size of the visible area and project coordinates. So if we did something like console.log view.size, which again I just found here, and we refresh the page, let's see what we get. We get height and width. So we can take that height and that width. So view.size.height and then console.log view.size.width. And we could use that. If I refresh and I press the key, currently the view.size is 692 by 700, but if I resize it, you'll see that changes next time I press a key. So we can use that to generate those 2 points that we need. But the other thing that we can do is there's actually a built-in method that I found that will make us a random point. So I'll show you that as well. So rather than having to do math.random, which gives us something between 0 and 1, non-inclusive, and then we have to multiply that and shift it up or down, it's kind of a pain. So what we'll do instead is use this nice paper.js way that I found. Looks like this. So we'll make a maximum point. So the maximum point that we can add a circle to is going to be new point, view.size, and then we want width, comma, view.size.height. So x and y, our maximum x and our maximum y. So that makes our max point. And I'll show you if we do a console.log max point. There we go. And let's actually add our circle to max point. So instead of making a new point here at 100, 100, we'll just give it max point. Okay, so let's try that out now. I can get rid of those two. Refresh the page. I hit a key. See, we get one right down here in the bottom right corner. And if I resize and do it again, oops, and I hit a key, we now get our maximum point right here. So this is nice because as the window changes, as the visible area on this canvas changes, our maximum point changes. So we're not always generating a random number between our screen dimensions or even the window size, because as soon as the visible area, it's not even the entire window, but just the visible area on the canvas changes, our maximum point changes. Okay, so we have that. Now what we want to do is take that maximum point and we're going to generate a random point. So we'll just call it random point. And there's a method point.random. And that will give us a random point between 0 and 1, non-inclusive, just like math.rand, except with one line, we get a point object. So it's basically doing this, new point, math.random, comma, math.random. And then we want to take that, make another variable that we'll call just point, and it's equal to max point times random point. Just like that. So we're multiplying those 2 points together. It's kind of a lot of weird math, but basically we're generating a point between 0, 0, and 1, 1, but technically it would be 0.9999 and so on. So let's say we generate a point as 0.5, 0.5. Then the next thing that we do is we have our max point, which will always be the very maximum that we could make. So something like 1280 by 720 or whatever our window size is, 600 by 300, and then we multiply them together and we end up with a new point that is, in this case, 300, 150. So this is how we can generate a max or a random point that exists on the viewable area or the currently visible area of the canvas. Okay, so now let's just change this so that it goes to points. Let's take a look now. Refresh, hit any key, and we end up with random circles every time I press a key. Whoops. And if I resize the window, let's make it halfway across. Every time I press a key, we still see it. So it's not generating points over here anymore, which is nice. So that if the window happens to resize, the user doesn't have to refresh to get a new visible area or to get kind of recalculated numbers. Okay, great. So that's how we generate a circle, which we've already seen, but it's how we generate a circle when the user hits a key, any key. And we talked about how to make a random point. In the next video, we'll see how we can do some simple animations by first changing the colors of these points and having them fade to different hues, different colors, and then also by shrinking them down. So we'll see that in the next video, and then we'll go back and add in sound in the last video.